Hi there, Marshall here, and I'd like to invite you to join my email community where you can find additional tools, guidance, and support in healing your codependency, as well as follow me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram by looking up Heal Your Codependency with Marshall Bircher or clicking the links in the description. And you can listen to my episodes on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And now, on to today's episode. Good morning, my friends. Welcome to this episode of Healing Your Codependency. I'm Marshall Bircher. I'm excited to connect with you today. We had a quiet week last week, so we're back at it today. Today, we're going to talk about an essential focus in our healing, one of these factors that we must have in place in order to be fully liberated from our codependency and connected with our own health, our own wealth, our well-being, and our own wholeness in our life. And that's called your innate sovereignty. So what on earth is sovereignty? In my work, I define it as being the supreme or top authority over your body, over your life, over your purpose, over your worth, over your time, over your resources, over your energy. In other words, you're the authority about what happens to you in your world, what you allow into your world, what relationships you choose, how you invest your time, your energy, your focus, your money, your life, what you prioritize in those things, how you use the resources that you gain through your skills and through your effort in your life. So your sovereignty means I have the authority to manage these things and dictate how they'll be used in my life. This authority only exists in your yard. We have no authority over other people's yards. That's their yard, theirs to manage. So our personal power is very limited in this respect because personal power, one, is an aspect of our sovereignty. It's an expression of that sovereignty. Two, it's only limited to the management of our resources, our time, our energy, our body, and so forth. But it is not about other people's bodies, other people's time, other people's resources, other people's energy. When we're in someone else's yard trying to manage those things, we're moving into that codependent territory of controlling, fixing, enabling. And we're also enmeshed in their yard. We're not sovereign or separate from that, and we're not focused on what needs to be managed in our world. So in codependency, the opposite of this is enmeshment. So sovereignty is wholeness, containment. We're in our own space. Enmeshment is we're blended with others. We're blended with their perspective, their feelings, their wants, their needs, their direction, their purposes. And we lack a sense of definition, separateness, and wholeness to ourselves. This leads us to enormous amounts of confusion because we don't know what we think, what we feel, what we need, what we want, because our brain is seeking this outside of itself rather than within itself. So in sovereignty, it asks us to turn inward. It asks us to start touching into and inquiring within ourselves about what we think, what we want, what we need, what our boundaries are, what our limits are, what our capacity is right now, what purpose and direction we're going for. What do we actually prioritize in our world? I call this internal orientation. We are externally oriented through the fawn response to internalize other people's perspectives, their judgments of us, their feelings about us and things, and their priorities. That allows us to mimic back to them what those things are in hopes that it will make us attractive to them. It'll maybe encourage love and connection, safety, and belonging with them. We might even feel a sense of value because now we're being, seen, we're being given approval, we're being given attention there. So this is how the fawn response shows up to enmesh us in other people's world and violate our own sovereignty. Now sometimes, if you grew up like I did, you weren't actually taught that you had any sovereignty. You were taught that you were to obey, you were to conform, and you were to please the authorities above you. Because I was raised in a culture, in a community that said that I didn't have sovereignty over my body. It was someone else's. They got to dictate what the rules are on that. I had to report to authorities so they could deem me worthy or not. So my sense of worth was conditional on their sense of approval of me and my actions and actions I've taken and actions I didn't take. I had to seek a sense of permission to be myself, and that wasn't explicit, that was implicit. That meant that people's approval, That meant people's disapproval, their disappointment, their suggestions, their criticisms are what dictated what I felt I had permission to be, do, and have in my world. This is all that enmeshment with others. That's this external orientation showing up. And as I started to heal from my codependency, I started to discover this concept called sovereignty. This idea that I have innate authority, I have innate wholeness, I actually have a completeness about me. That doesn't mean that I have universally fit everywhere. It means that my shape works in a specific way, and I'm going to conform to that shape and let it teach me about me. In the codependency healing system, we spend an enormous amount of time and focus on sovereignty, on our own established legitimacy. So another component about sovereignty is that we have innate legitimacy. This means that your feelings have innate validity, they're real, they exist, that your needs and wants are innately real and valid, that your lived experiences have they are innately real and valid, that your wants and needs are innately real and valid, that your worth is innately real and valid. It's legitimate. It doesn't require justification, defense, argumentation, or explanation. In fact, in my work, your worth is fully sovereign or autonomous from all conditions. That way, the fawn response can't kick in. When our worth is really rooted in ourselves and we're connected to it and embodied with it, and we experience its sovereignty from other people's approval and their rejection, the fawn response does not happen as frequently because our sense of safety, our sense of connection to ourselves and others, our sense of worth is very, very high. Because our sense of value is one of the places where our safety either drops real quick or boosts real high, depending on how we're connecting to it and what we think our self-worth is. Our sovereignty has everything to do with that. Our sovereignty establishes what our power is and how we use it. It helps us understand that boundaries are good. Boundaries are a worthwhile thing to invest in because they help us feel safer. They direct our energy, our time, our focus. They're there to help us cultivate more well-being, more happiness in our lives. And that's why in the codependency healing system, we focus heavily on this concept of sovereignty. Now, sovereignty grants you the ability to pursue your life and create it in the way that you desire. It doesn't guarantee that those outcomes will happen, but it says, hey, we've got power to pursue the things that matter to us. Now we can move forward with that. In tandem with that, sovereignty empowers healthy, real connections, healthy, real relationships. Because rather than being in codependency where we are trying to please, trying to gain love, trying to earn approval, trying to fit in sovereignty, we present ourselves as who we really are. We allow other people to show up as they choose to show up. And then we evaluate how that fits together, whether or not that works for us. That's what I call the what, how, who model of relating. What do I want? What do I need? How does that work? How does this person show up in response to these things? How do they respond to it? Does that work for me? Am I getting a smiley face in the result there? Yeah, is this working for me? Am I satisfied here? We can only approach relationships that way if we're fully embracing the concept that, hey, I have innate legitimacy. I have inherent sovereignty. I'm a person with my own power, with my own responsibilities, with my own wholeness, my own space, my own territory. Yeah, this is where consent is built out from, because when I realize and recognize and respect the sovereignty of those I relate to, I'm like, oh, I want to ask permission to have access to their resource. Maybe it's their time, their energy, their focus, their attention, whatever it might be. Oh, they granted it. Now we're having a privileged experience here. Like, I get to have this time with this person. That's amazing. Because we respect our own sovereignty, we can identify it in others. So where do we start in this process of tapping into our sovereignty and leaving the world of external orientation? First place I start my students out with in sovereignty work is to acknowledge that we have the right to take up space. We have the right to take up space in our time, our energy, our body, our wants, and our needs. We have the right to take up space by using our time to pursue things that matter to us, to invest our money and time and energy in things that we want in our world. That's a way of occupying it. The other thing is we actually physically occupy space. We're here. We're real. We get to take up space. We get to use resources. We get to use our power on our own behalf. Now, caveat with power use is we don't get to choose the consequence. So we always work to align our power, our intention, and our values together to make sure that we get outcomes that are more congruent with what we are intending to get, and that the impact is generally owned and cared for, especially if there's pain involved, and that if there's love and care involved, that's expressed as well. But we always start with, hey, the right to take up space. And I start that off with a what shifts question so that we can gently enter the space of exploring who we are as a sovereign person that gets to take up space. So that question typically is, what shifts when you trust just a bit that you have the right to take up space in your own life? Then you let it sit. You let whatever comes up in your awareness come up. Acknowledge it and allow that to be there a little bit. Sometimes we don't know what comes up. Well, let that take up space. Sometimes we feel peace, like my body relaxed, like, yeah, I really like that. And then this bubbly, energizing energy starts to arise. Sometimes people experience fear because this is a step of autonomy. It's a step of separation from that enmeshment. So now they start to feel really alone. Hey, we bring that in too. We care for it. This is the work of nurturing our sovereignty while nurturing our safety and our well-being and our connection with ourselves. This is what we do in the Codependency healing system. And if you want to get your exclusive opportunity to join that system, the on-demand edition, check out my new workshop, The 3 Secrets That Heal Codependency Permanently. The link is in the description. Let's make some magic happen in your world. So click on that and take the workshop, and let's see what you discover there. Okay, my friends, that's where I want you to start today. And connecting with your sovereignty is, hey, what shifts if I trust just a bit that I have the right to take up space? I have the right to exist. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening via podcast, hi. Good to see you. Come join me in my email community and on Facebook community. Just go to my website at healyourcodependency.com. My friends, thank you again for being part of this episode. I look forward to seeing your comments, connecting with you there, and I'll see you in our next episode. Okay, bye-bye, guys.